Hello you amazing beautiful people and welcome back to another reaction video. So many of you have been asking me to react to more anime news, breakdown of like powers, explained in all sorts of different videos. And man, the number one most recommended is DanMachi. Everybody has been telling me to check out the DanMachi video. How does power work? Leveling up explained in DanMachi. They said it's gonna help me out a lot when I'm watching the series and I should definitely watch it now. We are currently watching DanMachi live on Twitch. We watch it every single Sunday on Twitch and I am loving it. I really am. I think it is an awesome anime. It is so much fun. It is brilliant. The episodes are going up on this channel as well. They go up regularly here, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you want to follow my reaction here on G.O.T Extra. But yes, I think it is a very fun, very good anime, and I am more than happy to check out Annie News' video explaining the power, how everything works, because I feel like it's only going to enhance my watching experience. So, let's do it. If you've got any more recommendations, put them down below in that comment section. Do not forget to like the video, and do not forget to subscribe to this channel. We need a journey to get another plaque on that wall. We're going to have a G.O.T Extra one right there, and that's only possible with all of you helping. So, let's jump into my first time ever reaction to Bell's Power and Stats Explained. How does leveling work in DanMachi? By Annie News. Shout out Annie News, link to their channels in the description. Let's go.
As I'm sure you know, Bell is a special adventurer. He levels up much faster than everyone else, and his basic stats often go above and beyond the max S rank, going all the way to the double S and triple S ranks that not even the Loki Familia knows exist. But what does all that actually mean?
Yes,
I mean,
what does it mean?
Leveling is one of those components that you hear mentioned a lot throughout the anime. It plays a significant role in dictating the power level of all the characters, yet we're never given any context as to how it all works. All we ever see or hear is that X character leveled up and is now significantly stronger. So let's see how these things work and then check out Bell's current stats and see exactly how strong he is compared to everyone else. Rario, the ability to level up, gain experience, and subsequently go stronger all stem from what's called a falna, a central concept in the world of DanMachi that we've only ever seen a couple of times in the anime. They're displayed as the black markers implanted onto the backs of newly recruited adventurers who join a familia. Every familia member has one, and they're meant to signify the fact that they've received a blessing from their god or goddess. But simply calling it a blessing is a rather tame way of putting it. The falna does a lot more than you would originally think for the person receiving it.
One thing I've wondered about, I don't think I've ever asked, is it possible for anyone to become adventurer? Do they just need a familiar and anybody can do it? Like, is it just anyone can do it? Or is it more solo leveling-esque where only certain people can do it, you know? How does it actually work?
Reason being that it basically involves the god incorporating a portion of their divine powers, aka their arcanum, into the adventurer. This includes a bit of the essence of their being that allows them to be immortal. Which is why when an adventurer gains a falna, they begin to age more slowly, resulting in their lifespan essentially increasing. Take Finn for example. Sure, he may still look like a young boy, which is rather normal for a fully matured prum, but he's actually over 40 years old.
I actually wondered that.
Make the adventurers themselves immortal. It also doesn't affect puberty. The stage of life that's affected the most is adulthood. However, the actual rate at which people age is all dependent on the type of person and their level. You see, the higher level you become, the stronger you get, because you've absorbed more divine power into your being, thus growing your falna. Hestia likes to put it this way: every time an adventurer goes up in level, they move one step closer to godhood, and each step closer to godhood makes you age more slowly. Still not quite letting you live forever, but making it significantly longer than the average lifespan. Now, whether someone...
I never really thought of it that way. Every time you level up, you move closer to godhood. I've never, ever once thought of it that way. And I'm guessing, obviously, that's how Hestia explained it, so I just didn't listen to Hestia, which, it makes sense. But yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. Alright, that's interesting. Is it possible for an adventurer to become as strong as a god? Because gods can't use their power, so theoretically speaking, all of the adventurers are. But also, are any of them actually?
One could become such a high level that they practically become a demigod is a whole nother question. But I wouldn't doubt its achievability. In that same vein, the amount of power or vitality you can receive from this falna also depends on the type of person and their level. It's no secret that it gives you a massive boost in your physical abilities, but the extent to which these abilities can grow is all different. That's where exelia comes in. Think of this as a more advanced type of experience points, experience that works towards fueling the falna. Just like in an RPG video game, a falna allows adventurers to work towards upgrading their own individual stats. Normal people who have yet to receive a blessing from their god are pretty much all level 0. They have minimal stats and would be complete.
There we go. Okay, that answers that question. That's actually kind of cool. Thank you, Annie News. That was a question I was wondering, and I guess we now have the answer to
Completely
it.
useless if they were to try to fight even the most basic of monsters.
Okay.
But once they receive that falna, it basically automatically upgrades them to level 1, granting them what we would refer to as a status and giving them power that is significantly stronger than a normal human. This status...
So wouldn't everyone kind of want to get that then? Even like imagine like even right now. Let's say this exists in our world right now. Wouldn't all of us want to get that and then just go back to our day jobs and then we're just slightly tougher than everyone else, you know? We can live a bit longer, we can do everything a bit longer. Wouldn't every single person want this?
Displays 5 key trackable parameters that dictate their overall power. Basic abilities, development abilities, magic, skills, and level. Exelia works towards upgrading or improving each of these, but the area in which you can see its effects the most is with the basic abilities. This is broken down to the fundamental areas of strength, defense, dexterity, agility, and magic.
I like the
Within every
characters
level,
represented
each basic
there.
ability has one of 10 ranks, S being the strongest and I the weakest. Alongside these letters are a numerical score value that displays exactly how strong an individual is in that area. A score of 0 to 99 ranks you at I, 100 to 199 ranks you at H, and so on until 999, with that being the max value that a person can reach. Unless of course your bell, which I'll soon explain. But as an adventurer gets stronger, it also gets harder to grow their falna, and it eventually becomes extremely difficult to further progress. Think of it like an inverse exponential curve, where going up the levels means more higher quality experience is needed to boost your stats, resulting in a slower rate of growth. But
so literally like any other game, you know, the more you level up, the slower it is to level up, you know. Leveling up from like imagine Call of Duty. When you level up from 0 to 1, you're gonna level up after 1 kill, you know. Let's say you don't need 500 XP. The next level up, 1000 XP. Next level up, 1500, you know, and like it so on and so on and so on. You need more to level up, so you level up quickly at the beginning and slower in the later game.
Before even getting more into that, I'm sure you want to know how someone even goes about gathering that experience in the first place. Well, that brings us back to the concept of exelia. As I recently said, it's essentially the experience system that fuels a person's growth. But the way it functions is a little bit different from what you would expect from a typical RPG. Exelia works in tandem with the falna. Gaining exelia can be done through a variety of means. For starters, you can get some by just exercising your basic abilities. So,
that's kind
say
of cool.
Bell wanted to improve his defense stats. All he would have to do is get hit a few times by some monsters, and that experience of taking damage will go towards increasing his defenses. The improvement would be marginal, of course, but doing so over and over again would eventually make a big difference. Then, say Bell wants to raise his agility next. He can do so by running around and dodging attacks, something that we see him do quite a lot, which is why his agility stats are so much higher than the rest.
Okay, that does make sense. So basically, just simply put, the way Bell fights improves his stats. The way he actually fights. Okay. I like that. That's interesting. It's quite simple. All right.
This method of upgrading your stats, though, is that the exelia gained in the moment through whatever adventure or obstacle you've just overcome doesn't reflect immediately on your falna. Reason being that your falna does not upgrade your stats in real time with your experiences. In order for any exelia to be adapted into your stats, your falna has to be updated by your god. Only after this happens will all that exelia be distributed towards the development of things like your basic abilities or...
So the best way to look at this is like it's like a bank, you know? Like the way I'm so I go into a dungeon and I'm fighting. I'm not gaining any experience. I'm banking it all. I'm like, it's like earning money. Everything I'm earning is going into the bank. I need to then go to the bank to withdraw that money. Okay.
New skills and magic. The reason it works like this is actually pretty interesting, because this is where exelia starts to branch off from the typical experience points systems and really focus on the literal experience. You see, exelia is something that basically tells the gods what path an individual has walked up to that point. It's literally a recount of their child's experiences. A god basically reads a person's history through their exelia, and it's by doing this that they will know if that person slew a monster, fought an army, or simply just had a good bit of practice. Everything someone has accomplished, both quality and amount, shows up in exelia. The gods will see their life story, see their achievements, then update the hieroglyphs of their children's falna to match what the exelia has shown them.
That needs a little bit more explaining. How does someone's past affect the exelia? That part I don't fully understand. I imagine like you could just, so if they checked mine, they'd just be able to see my past. But then how does seeing that affect the exelia? Unless I might have just totally missed that.
In order for this process to happen, a goddess like Hestia must first drop a bit of her blood onto Bel's falna. The blood will reveal Bel's statuses, cause them to rise up, and allow them to be modified. Hestia is the only one that can do this for Bel. No god can update, overwrite, or erase the falna of someone that isn't part of their familia. So, to clarify, exelia are the actual events that Bel experienced while on adventures or in combat, which go towards improving the key parameters defined by the basic abilities, development abilities, magic, skills, and levels as provided by the falna. Now, exelia varies based on the encounter. The quality of it depends on how difficult the task is in comparison to your level, which is why as you get—
Hypothetically speaking, could you not, if you went and just, like let's say this Minotaur fight from Season 1, if Bel fought this guy, couldn't win, went away, came back, fought him again, went away, came back, fought him again, but never beat him, he'd still get points in just trying, right? So eventually he would become strong enough to beat him.
Get stronger, it gets harder to level up. Initially, every encounter you face will be a challenging one. Therefore, you'll receive high-quality exelia all the time and grow faster.
Yeah.
But if you're level 4...
Oh, that's why Eyes constantly complains. You have to have challenging fights to level up quicker. Which is why you see a lot of people level up after they've had this insane fight. I see, which is also why a lot of high levels want to do things on their own, like Eyes.
And are still just farming monsters on the lowest level of the dungeon, then that really won't do much to improving your level 4 stats. Sure, it may have worked at level 1, but now you likely won't be making it to level 5 at all. Eyes actually runs into this problem fairly often. It's pretty difficult or damn near impossible for her to find monsters that would significantly improve her stats without having to go on a serious expedition. Bel, on the other hand, is a good example of the opposite. He's constantly putting himself against opponents that are far more powerful than he is. So the difficulty in proportion to his level is often much higher, resulting in him gaining a fairly large amount of high-quality exelia, which in turn allows him to improve his basic abilities and level up very fast.
So Bel is special in a way, but also Bel is being smart. So not only is Bel special, but Bel is doing smart things. I see. So he's like doubling it. He's like got his own specialness to his character, but at the same time, he's constantly taking on higher opponents, high-level opponents, and that sort of stuff. One, because he's low level, but two, because it's just Bel. And that helps too.
But simply getting all your basic ability attributes to the S rank isn't enough to level you up. The act of leveling is one that involves overloading the soul with exelia. So you just can't grind the same monsters over and over again. It's not a viable method. Even if they were slightly stronger than you, it's not something that classifies as a grand feat worthy of boosting you up an entire level. There's actually no well-defined method behind what allows someone to level up. For some reason, the light novel likes to keep it very ambiguous. All we know is that the adventurer has to have at least one basic ability at the D rank, then must complete an amazing task. It's gotta be a feat so spectacular that it will not only impress the gods, but also overload your fauna with exelia, pushing your stats to the upper ranks. Mind you, normal adventurers tend to plateau before that, rarely ever reaching the A or S ranks. The average adventurer will typically have stats between 500 and 800 before they level up. Many find it way too difficult to get beyond that. It's the reason why half of the total adventurers in Arario are stuck at level 1, forced to stay within their small familias. Those who actually manage to complete a spectacular feat and get to level 2 often live in larger familias, which just by being in one makes it easier to level up. But what class—
True. Obviously, it's the same with like something like solo leveling, you know? You've got a team around you, you're all going on these missions together, it's going to be much easier. You don't have that, it's going to be much more difficult, you know? If I'm going into a dungeon, like, think about it this way. If I wanted to go into a dungeon right now and fight some high-level opponents, you know, one, I might not have access to them, two, I might die. If I go in with a bunch of other people, we're gonna have access to them, the likelihood of us dying is much less.
Classifies as spectacular? Well, that's subjective depending on the level. For Bel, him facing off against that Minotaur at level 1 was something amazing, even by the gods' standards. But if Eyes was to do that same
Freya
thing
was
against
definitely
that same
feeling it.
monster, well, I doubt that would even move her basic ability stats up a few digits. So, usually the best way to level up is to take on opponents that are a higher level than you. I mean, that's what Bel seems to be doing every time.
Yeah,
but
it does.
For someone that isn't Bel, attempting to take on opponents that are a higher level all by yourself will most likely result in death. Bel has special circumstances that allow him to do heroic feats like this all the time, which I'll talk more about towards the end of the video. Now, when a person finally levels up, two things will happen. First, you'll receive a significant boost to all your stats. However, there's no fixed number that can quantify exactly how much you've improved. The general...
One question. Bell was trying to level up for ages, you know? He was like fighting for a long time, and then he just randomly started leveling up quickly. Did something change?
Consensus is, regardless of how high or low your level 1 stats were when you leveled, a level 2 will always be stronger than a level 1. That's just how much of a difference a whole level makes. But even if the stat boost was something like plus 1000 on all attributes, we won't ever actually know because of the second thing that happens. When reaching the next level, all stats will reset back to I0. Now, that doesn't mean that the level 1 stats are gone though. They're still there as a hidden baseline in addition to whatever boost was received from leveling up. Knowing this, the next question then becomes, how do we
I guess that's a way of basically saying, like, you don't get weaker. Like, you know, it's like no, you haven't just gone back to 0 and you're weaker all of a sudden. It's like you've leveled up, everything you achieved before basically freezes, and then those frozen numbers become zeros on the next level. So it's like, if everything's 99999 and I level up, that doesn't all go back to 0. That stays 999, but represents 0 here, and it goes up again. That's what they're saying.
Track the overall power of people who are higher than level 1.
Frickin' bunnies with axes.
Let's use Bell as an example. After Bell had defeated the Minotaur, his level 1 stats were completely overloaded to the max. Like, beyond that of what was considered normal since they went past the supposed max rank of S999 and reached the double and triple S ranks which lies in the thousands. These numbers will act as the baseline for those attributes. So after updating his falna and reaching level 2, even though his stats now show I0, the double and triple S stats from level 1 are still technically there as hidden parameters. Now, if we look at when Bell defeated the Black Goliath, his stats all increased to the mid ranks of D to B. So what you do with these is take the numbers from the same attributes and add them to the base ones from level 1. That final summed number will be what Bell's overall stats are for that specific attribute. And just to highlight a bit better how exelia literally works with anything, when Bell got punched a few times by Hyacinthus, his defense stat had improved from D590 to D594. It just goes to show that even getting stomped by a higher level opponent still works towards your overall improvement.
Which again is like what I just said about if he continued to fight that Minotaur, whatever. Everyone says it differently. It throws me off. You could literally just train, and it would work on your stats. May not work on your level.
I'm sure you're wondering though. Didn't I just say that the max rank was S? Well, yeah, I did, cause technically it is S. So then, how does Bell have stats in double S and triple S? Well, as I've been saying, Bell is a very special exception. Most adventurers reach a point where they think they can level up, then immediately go try to overload their exelia to complete the process. Reason being that a lot of adventurers don't want to waste their time gaining exelia that counts for less. The grind to cap their stats at the A and S ranks is a long and strenuous one. Most would rather...
I see. So if they see it as like, if they get the minimum required, then there's no point... Basically, they see it that if they get the minimum requirement, here it is, they can level up. Anything they get after that is just pointless, and that could all be added to this once they level up. That's how they see it.
Level up as soon as possible in order to get that quick boost and fight stronger enemies, then risk fighting those same stronger enemies at a lower level for a marginal return.
Yeah,
to them,
I see.
Boosting lower level stats isn't worth putting off boosting higher level stats. Even though in the long run it would be more beneficial to their overall power, the time commitment is just too much.
That is true.
Even years.
That is true, because that basically means that Bell, on the way he is leveling up, will be stronger than anyone else in his level. At least from a statistic point of view, right? Meaning, every time Bell hits a level, statistically, he will be stronger than anyone else in that level. Just because of how he's leveling up. But the fact that he's like going over the figures before he levels up means that he's carrying those higher figures with him to higher levels. So when he's level 3, he's the strongest level 3. When he's level 4, he's the strongest level 4. Because of that, right? Something like that?
Years to get from that A to S rank. So why bother when you can just get an immediate power boost by only having a single D rank? Remember, the only real condition to leveling up is to have a single D rank in one of the basic attributes. The rest comes down to your personal abilities. As for Bell, he doesn't necessarily see the benefits of waiting to level up. It just kind of happens as a byproduct of his Realis Freeze ability, more formally known as Single-Minded Pursuit Realis Freeze. This was a skill developed from his experience with the Minotaur in episode 1. After Bell was saved by Eyes, he developed a determination to become as strong as her. The skill then manifested itself after his next update, and what it does is accelerate his rate of growth so long as that feeling of determination remains the same. The effect of the skill is directly proportional to those feelings, so the more Bell feels that desire to match Aize's strength, the faster he will grow. As we know, Bell often, if not all the time, has that flaming passion, and it only continues to grow every time he encounters a new enemy or feels dwarfed by someone else. In a practical sense, it's basically like he's using a quadruple experience buff. It provides such an increased rate of growth that it allows him to completely bypass the plateau that normal adventurers would experience when maxing out their stats towards A and S.
Bell is a very good example of an anime character in an isekai format that's done very well. Even though DanMachi is not an isekai, it feels like one, but even though it isn't, you know, in the same sort of format. And I don't know how to word that, but I was like, basically, when I like saw the DanMachi openings and stuff, I assumed it was an isekai because most isekai follows this kind of format. And the fact that it wasn't was very, like, surprising in a good way. But what I'm trying to say is, when I watch a lot of anime like this, the main characters are always overpowered. Like, in any other anime, it feels like with Bell being this special ability, there would have already been a time jump and he would already be, like, level 5 million and way stronger than everyone else, you know? DanMachi, like, even now in, like, Season 3 or going into Season 4, like, Bell is never the strongest. And he's always scared, and he's always, like, fighting on the back foot, and he's never the strongest, and everyone around him's stronger. And that is so rare in anime that it becomes something so awesome, you know? To have a character that isn't the strongest, that is struggling, makes it really good. And I feel like Bell is one of the best examples of a character who starts off very weak, and we just see them grind for ages. And it's a slow grind, you know? Like, it happens over a long period of time. So, like, after 2 seasons, they become the strongest, and then the rest of the seasons, them just kicking everyone's ass. I feel like DanMachi does it incredibly well.
In fact, it's so fast that it will
anime.
sometimes completely blow past the supposed S limit and reach double S or triple S that not even members of the Loki familia know exist. This brings with it an interesting concept that would shake the very foundations of Arario if it came to be true. It would also explain how Bell has been able to keep up with higher leveled adventurers. What I'm talking about is that in some cases, Bell's extremely overloaded stats at the lower levels will reach a sum that is higher than the sum of other adventurer stats who are a higher level. His agility is a good example of this, because as his best attribute with a triple S rank in every level, when summing those numbers together, it will often come out to be a value higher than adventurers who are a level above him.
This is what I said earlier.
There are times where Bell could be level 3 and have stats that match or even beat that of a level 4. From where we are in the anime, Bell's current stats are as follows. He's only about halfway through level 3, but taking into account his previous level stats puts him much higher. For context, he beat Aisha with these stats while she was a newly upgraded level 4, so it's pretty safe to assume that—
Just so you, but I imagine a few of you are going to be panicking because of spoilers. Do not worry, I'm past this point in the I'm past this point on Twitch. The episodes just haven't caught up on here on G.O.T. Extra yet, so don't worry.
In his current state, he can keep up with most mid to low level 4 adventurers. Anyway, that's pretty much how the stats on basic abilities and levels work. However, that's not the only aspect that we should focus on. There's still magic, skills, and development abilities that contribute to an adventurer's status. Development abilities are special abilities that have a chance of manifesting after every level. They're essentially rewards for leveling up. There could be one, none, or even multiple that appear. But in the end, you can only choose one. Bell's development ability is called Luck. Hestia likens it to a form of divine protection. Though its exact effects aren't quite known, people assume that when it's activated, it draws out some of Hestia's arcanum, which then goes towards protecting Bell. Other development abilities include Aize's Hunter, which improves attacks against monsters she's fought before, or Welf's Blacksmith, which allows him to add special abilities to his creations.
Interesting, so it is literally just like a special ability. It's a special attribute that people have. Okay, I see. I don't know whether or not Annie New said this, and if he did, I totally apologize, I missed it, but I wonder if that can be changed, amended, or upgraded.
The abilities that manifest for each
or
person
if it's a permanent
are all
thing
different, and it depends on the way they control their falna and exelia. Certain exelia from certain tasks lead to certain abilities. It's not just given at random. In any case, much like the basic abilities, these are also ranked from I to S, and can be improved over time with rigorous training.
There you go, we have an answer.
These don't reset on a level up, it takes significantly more effort and time to improve them. Skills, on the other hand, are abilities that can—
Okay, so Bell's luck can level up and improve.
Develop at any time, usually taking the form of passive buffs to specific offensive or defensive traits. skills that are unique to the person are said to be rare, whereas skills that are shared between other adventurers are known to be common. The skills that do end up being developed are not only influenced by an adventurer's exelia, but also by their personality. Looking at Bell once again, we already know he has Realis Freeze. His other skill is much more prominent in the anime. It's called the Hero's Wish Argonaut, a skill derived from his desire to become a hero. It's an attack that requires a few minutes of charging in order to be unleashed. While Bell envisions himself as the hero, white light will begin to gather around his hand, which can then be released in a massive beam of energy. We've seen it come in clutch time and time again to overcome a lot of the big bosses. In my opinion, other skills aren't so powerful, but
I guess the idea of this is Bell needs to have that mental fortitude, that desire to be the hero. He can't be broken. He has to really want to save the damn day in order to activate
regardless of what they may be, each seem to have a good synergy with the adventurer that they're tied to. Finally, we get to magic. This comes in two different types, innate and acquired. As the term innate suggests, this magic can be naturally used by those whose abilities and race allow it. The downside is that these races are often limited to the types of magic that they can use. However, the strength and scale of the ones that they can use are often very high. Acquired magic refers to magic-based abilities gained through a falna. With this type, any magic can be gained regardless of race. There are almost no restrictions, and it can take on many different forms. The exact effects, though, are heavily dependent on exelia, and magic like this requires a chant in order to be cast. The longer the chant, the stronger it is. Now, even though adventurers are capable of learning up to 3 magic spells, the occurrence of even one is rather rare. In Bell's case, it was extremely unlikely for him to learn any, as he showed little interest in attempting to do so. You see, most magic users were quite intelligent, but Bell just didn't seem like the type of person to want to sit down and study. Nevertheless, he still understood the importance of magic, since for a close quarters combat specialist like him, a ranged mage would be a very bad matchup. That's why Bell's Firebolt makes his chances of surviving a magic fight a little bit more even. Though you may have noticed that this spell is a little bit different from the others. It's a rare breed belonging to a selection of spells known as Swift Strike Magic. Because of this, it requires no incantation. All Bell has to do to cast it is simply say Firebolt. Of course,
I wonder if this is a spell that is going to constantly level up and improve alongside Bell as well. Because I feel like it's going to be kind of interesting. Also, I didn't even think about the incantation thing, or how many spells someone can learn and how unlikely it is. Bell is definitely more of a practical learner than a sit down and study kind of learner. And the fact that he has an ability, he doesn't use it as much now, but the fact he has an ability like this is cool, because the idea of him getting more like it is even cooler.
Just having no incantation means that its overall power isn't anything substantial. However, it could be combined with his Argonaut skill to make it significantly stronger. So, Firebolt, his 2 skills,
which he
luck,
has done.
development ability, stats, and level are all described on the falna markings on his back. Every adventurer's falna displays all these parameters, but unlike Bell who has them visibly showing at all times, most adventurers tend to have them hidden. Anyway, that's pretty much how the leveling and experience systems work.
I wonder if the fact these shows
Clearly,
all times
Bell is a very special individual who has literally
is on
every aspect of
purpose.
his being working towards making him become the greatest adventurer. Of course, that's to be expected given the nature of the story. But with his current abilities and rate of growth, it's definitely a possibility for him to eventually surpass Eyes. There's even an interesting Reddit post that calculates and compares Bell's growth against Eyes and a few others. A few assumptions had to be made, but the overall math is pretty sound. According to the post, a level 5 Bell will start to have stats that surpass the current level 6 Eyes. So it'll be interesting to see if that actually comes true in the anime. Now, before I go...
This is literally like what I said, by the way. That's where Annie News' video ends. It's just a shout out to his sponsor there. So a personal shout out to Annie News. Thank you so much for making these incredible videos. You are awesome. I love your damn channel. And link to Annie News' channel, of course, is in the description as always. Another fantastically informative video from the legend. So, this is what I said earlier. Bell's abilities and the way he levels up means that when he reaches certain levels, he will always be able to outdo people in those levels. So, arguably speaking, and statistically mainly, Bell is always going to be the strongest in his level. Whenever he levels up, he will be the strongest because of his double S and triple S rankings. So he'll be the strongest level 3, like statistically speaking, like I said, and the strongest level 4, meaning that if he was in the same level as Eyes, statistically, he'd be like a whole level above her. Which is probably how he's able to hold his own in fights with, like, fighting alongside higher levels, but also fighting higher levels too. Which is probably why when he got that buff, Was it Haruhime or whatever? When he got her buff, he was even like more badass, you know, because he's able to exceed those people. It's like he's already able to fight them. He struggles, but he's able to because of those stats. They like carry him ahead further, which I think is just like just awesome. And it's like a really cool way of leveling up because you have the level up aspect and then the points aspect, and those points obviously go into your usual standard points. And because of how they work and how they work uniquely with Bell, that changes how he levels up. Which actually isn't something I knew. So this video is already going to massively help when watching the anime series. Which, by the way, I do want to say, as someone who's... I don't even know where we are at DanMachi now, like what we're on. But as someone who's like into DanMachi now, has been watching it for a while, I do have to say it is an anime series that just gets better and better. It really, really does. I really enjoy watching it. I think it is wonderfully unique, which is crazy that I'm saying that, but it is. Its leveling system and its story, the fact that Bell isn't this overpowered main character just walking for everybody and he has to work for it is awesome as well. One thing I always wonder is when people talk about the main character being like the strongest character in the series or that sort of thing, the way I always look at it is the story is supposed to be written in, like think about it this way. If you landed on that planet and they told you the stories of all these people and they said like who do you want to learn the story of, you know? How about the underdog who became the strongest hero? That's the person you'd pick. You know, you'd be like, oh, I want to know their story. Which is why when you have anime, TV shows or movies where the main character is the strongest character, that's because if they weren't the main character, then you just have, oh, there's awesome, imagine like The Boys, the TV show The Boys. But instead of anything to do with superheroes, we're just following some guy who just works in an office. And every now and then he'll go, did you hear what Homelander did today? Crazy. And just goes back to working. You know, no one wants to hear that damn story. So that's why I always find it acceptable when the main character is a strong person, because obviously they are going to be. But Bell is an exception in that case where he is and isn't. Because of how it works and the fact that he's like new to the game makes him completely outmatched, and I love watching him fight against the current, you know, and constantly make slow progress. I think DanMachi does an excellent job at making us root for Bell. Meanwhile, the world seems to be against him, and he's never the strongest person in the room, which makes us root for him even more. And it was awesome finding out a bit more about his powers and abilities and how they're going to work, because now I get to understand a little bit more going forward when he fights people at different levels in different situations and how that's going to render itself to him. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my reaction. If there's any more videos you'd like me to react to, let me know down below. And do not forget to support these videos by pressing that like button and pressing that subscribe button. Road to 100K, guys. Let's do it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, my friends, you will see me in the next video.